I'm gonna tell you a rule about drinking that I have. It's called full disclosure. That's my rule. I only drink full disclosure beverages. I'm Daniel Winnington. I'm the Chancellor at Wizard Academy and Whiskey Marketing School. I'm drinking a couple of things in this series of videos that I just really want to do, and this is one of them. I went to go replenish this bottle in the vault because it's my favorite whiskey that Kilchoman has ever released. And when I realized that it was a special release, I bought 8 bottles of it many years ago. And every time it runs out in the vault, I replenish it. And so I was doing that this week during class when someone else was teaching. And I was like, I don't think I've talked about this one in a while. I'm going to review this one again, mainly as an excuse to drink it. But I have a rule as I drink. There are a couple categories of drinks. And the one category that I avoid at all costs if I can help it, or I should say I don't avoid it, but I don't prefer it. These are the drinks that when you drink them, they say, hey, let's hang out. Let's be friends. I won't hurt you. I'm fun. I'm pretty. I don't even taste like alcohol. Take me home to meet your parents. It'll be all good. And you pick up, usually a cocktail, you pick up the cocktail and you're like, woo, it's delicious. It doesn't even taste like alcohol. It's amazing. And the bottle's like, yeah. Hey, yeah, come on, have one more. Have one more. Let's be friends. And then you're like, woohoo, it's fine, it's delicious. I can quit whenever I want. And then you wake up chained to an oar 3 miles out to sea. And you're like, oh, damn it, not again. See, these are drinks that are lying to you. They're drinks that are not being honest about who and what they are. And I don't trust those drinks. They go under pretty names like Mai Tai and Sex on the Beach and Margarita. Now, I mean, I'm a sucker for a good margarita, but that's part of the problem. And honestly, one of the most delicious things I've ever had was a Mai Tai on the beach in Hawaii. And that's exactly the problem. So my rule in my day-to-day drinking is that you need to avoid things that are not being honest with you about what they are, you know, for safety reasons. So if that's the case, then what should you be drinking? I can't believe I'm giving an entire, like, emphatic, stop drinking nice tasting drinks. I'll tell you, but first I want to talk about Kilchoman. Kilchoman was the first new distillery on Islay in like 100 and something years. They're not new anymore. They're like they're older than most new American craft distilleries, if that tells you anything. So on Islay, they're still babies, but in the rest of the craft world, these guys are crawling in on the older crowd of that group. And they're real nerds. They have malt their own barley to a certain degree, and they are serious about variations of cask, and like they're not screwing around. They went in to make a craft distillery and to be nerds about it, and by God, they did it. And I've loved their whiskey since the first time I got to try it. It was brash, and it was no apologies. But now we're getting like 7, 10 plus old bottles from them, and we're starting to see what they become when they're a little older. This one is an older bottle. I bought 8 bottles of this in 2019, in August of 2019. This was bottled in July of 2019, and it was specifically bottled for Specs. That's our local liquor store. And it is a single barrel Madeira Cask Kilchoman. Now, Madeira is a Portuguese wine that takes kind of specific grapes. It's a fortified wine. So think of it like in the category of like sherry or port, right? And it ranges from like cooking dry wine, that like the kind of stuff that you would never drink, but you would use it for cooking, and then like really sweet, desserty, drink it with dessert or as an after dinner aperitif kind of vibe. But I turns out have a soft spot for Madeira finishes and malt. And this was when I discovered it, because the Kilchoman is like briny and smoky, this one anyway, and like rich and dense. It's not screwing around. It's a whiskey. It's a Scotch. But it's also rich and sweet, but not in the same way that port cask finish, and not in the same way of like sherry cask finishes. Madeira has this other thing, and I do not, maybe Eric Waite can chime in on the comments, but I do not have enough knowledge of wines to go, okay, because of partially Eric Waite, I've studied a lot more about sherries. And so I've now gotten to the point in scotches where I can go, oh, this is that kind of sherry cask, and here's what the sherry cask added to the whiskey. I don't have that with Madeira. I haven't had any Madeira on its own ever. I have no idea what on its own Madeira tastes like, so it's hard for me to pick out what it's adding to this. All I know is that the end result, anytime I've had a Madeira cask whiskey, is something I've always really loved, and this whiskey was the one that first taught me that. Do they have any details about the... No, they don't. Okay. It's intense, man. The nose is intense on this, and partially because it is 56.8% alcohol. Oh, man. Oh, man. That changed like 3 times. It starts dense and sweet like hard candy, and then it just cracks and fractures, and what dries out instantly into ash and smoke, and sort of like peters out with these fingers of oil and grain. Ah, and then like ashy aftertaste. It goes for days. Yeah, barley and smoke is the ending, but it's still sweet, but there's a lot going on in there. I'm gonna add a little water at the risk of ruining this. Okay, so what should you drink, in my opinion? Or what's Daniel's rule of survival drinking? And the answer is, I only drink things that are honest, that are full disclosure, if I can help it, like on a daily basis. My go-to drinks. I want a drink that I pour, and I pick it up, and I smell it, and I hold it, and it leans over to me, looks around, and it whispers gently into my ear, I'm gonna kill you. And I go, I know. That's called full disclosure drinking. Like, this is not lying about itself. This one's going, yeah, if I wanted to, I could kill you. And you're going, yes, you can, and that's why I have to be so careful with you, because I know that you can kill me. That's called full disclosure drinking. I highly recommend it. This is why I like hard alcohols like tequilas and mezcals and scotch and bourbon and things like this. I think brandy and cognac, they dance, and Armagnac, they sort of dance on the line of maybe almost too pretty sometimes. But it's a good survival mechanism to just every sip be reminded, hey man, this is potentially lethal what's happening right here, and you should watch yourself. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's like always trying to remember that that wolf dog you got because you thought it looked pretty isn't actually a domesticated animal. This is a non-domesticated animal. All right, with a little water, the smoke comes to the front and the nose a little bit more. And the sweetness sort of subsides and it just becomes barley smoke with a hint of sugars and berry. Oh, but then the dessertness, the desserty, sweet, dark fruit notes explode in the palate with a little bit of water. Actually, I really like that. That's really nice, that combo. Slightly ashy nose, briny barley, and then deep fruit palate sweetness. Man, this is a good whiskey. That's why I bought 8 bottles of it. I just read Recently, they did a whole other round of releases of Madeira Cask. It's not this year, but they're doing new releases of the Madeira Cask, and hopefully it lives up to what this did. Cheers to you. I'm really glad you're here. Your full disclosure moment should be liking and subscribing.